Hey, hey, awesome. Hello, everybody. If there are people out there, welcome. Um, Today I'm first live stream, so I have no idea what I'm doing. Don't even know if this is working, so hopefully it is. Um, Today I want to have a look at building out a JSON resource, like a Laravel style JSON resource that kind of easily supports JSON API and is really um, kind of like a pretty lightweight implementation of that. Um, there's a bunch of stuff out there. Like if you need this right now, like just go use something else. Like I just kind of wanted to build this myself. We built a kind of a mini version at work, and I just want to kind of extend on that and build it a bit more full featured. So just going to give that a go. So yeah, let's just dive in. I say I'm going to hide my camera if I can work out how to do that as well. That should do it. Um, awesome. All right, let's just having a look here. Okay, cool. So anyone who's not familiar with JSON API, this is the spec here. Um, Hopefully, if you're kind of checking this out and you're interested in this, you might dig this. And really, it's just a kind of a anti-bike shedding tool to just come up with a standard for your API. Um, and does a whole lot of nice things. Well, things that I quite like it puts all your attributes in here and your relationships kind of get nested in here. A lot of the time when I'm building a API, it's like really flat, and this kind of makes it a really rich structure. And it allows, if you're, on the front end, you can kind of request relationships and stuff. It's cool. JSON API is cool. Anyway, so I'm going to stop ranting and like get into some code. Hey, Ryan. All right. What should we do? So I've started putting together a little package here. I'm just making sure that it works. Always forget how the test bench stuff works. So what do we want to do? The first thing I want to do is probably just pick something nice and easy to kind of dig into straight away, which is creating this structure and just working with attributes to begin with. So what we want to do, you can see that this is kind of already the structure that like Laravel has out of the box, right? Like if it's a plain object, if it's a single instance, it's like a data key and then there's an object in there. But the difference is in this, it's got type and ID, and then the attributes are nested and the relationships are nested. So the structure is a little bit different. Of course, you could just do this yourself, but we want to kind of just build a little bit of infrastructure around it just to make it a little bit nice. Hey, Alan, hope you're going good today. So let's just start doing that. So what I'm going to do is I've just got this little bare bones repo here. So we'll come into source and we'll just start a new file. What do we want to call this? We'll call this JSON API resource. Cool. Of course, that is being weird for some reason. I'm not sure why. API resource. Oh my gosh, what is happening? Why is Vim is being weird? Why are you being weird, Vim? And this is going to extend the JSON resource class. At the first time we kind of looked at this, we did it as a trait, but thinking that we might be able to hook into a bit more stuff if it's a class. And I always get confused with like what conflicts with a trait and what doesn't. Like I think if you've got a property on a trait and then you change that property on the object that's using the trait, it like breaks or something. I always forget if it's like everything that does that or just properties or anyway. So I'm just going to do an extension here, which kind of makes sense because this is a more specialized version of JSON resource anyway. So I think that's an appropriate use of inheritance there. So anyone that's kind of done JSON resource stuff knows that we get our request here. We're going to return an array and we're going to return something. So that's kind of our thing there. So I want to just talk about like what our API is actually going to look like. Hey, Michael. So what I'm thinking, so anyone who kind of hasn't played with JSON resource before, like dug into the under the hood, the way the JSON resource works is it's pretty much a responsible class, which is like this one little method that just gives you like so much power in Laravel. It's kind of cool. So what happens is you can kind of return anything from the controller that implements responsible, and the container will check, hey, is this is this responsible? If it is, it calls this method, and that's kind of how you can hook into things. So that's what this is doing. JsonResource just implements that responsible. So that means the toResponse method is kind of the hook where all the magic really happens to kind of convert this thing into some kind of response. And that gets passed into, so this response that we've got gets passed into this object here called ResourceResource, which I'm guessing is just a way to kind of not have all of that functionality like on this one class. This could probably just be all static methods really than just objects. And this is the toResponse here. So it like does a whole bunch of stuff to wrap up like the stuff that you're adding, like your with. Yeah, so it's just kind of, this kind of orchestrates like merging all the stuff together. And so the very last thing you could hook into is with a response as well. So we just got to work out like where do we hook into to like do all our transformations. And I think that I've thought about doing the with response, but at that point it's already being generated into like a JSON response. And so you're kind of manipulating the response object, which is fine and it works, but it feels weird. It also means that if a user wants to like manipulate the JSON like structure as well, they've got to kind of hook into this, which is I don't know. I'm not feeling it. So we're going to come back here. So that was a whole bunch of stuff as to how that works. So that means that, yeah, we've got this public function to response request, and this is where we're going to like hook our fingers in to really like manipulate stuff and do some funky things, I think. Yeah, I think that's probably the go. All right, so let's just like, what we'll do, I'm just going to make this toArray just like return this structure, right? Like do nothing fancy whatsoever. So this is just going to be ID, and it'll be this ID, assuming we're kind of always working with an eloquent resource. Then we've got our type, and we have to work out how do we get the type. And then we'll have attributes, and that'll be an array, and we need to work out how we do that. And then we've got relationships, if I can spell, and we need to work out what we're going to do in there as well. Cool. All right, so I think the first thing that we might look at doing is we'll jump over and start to write some tests. And the first thing we'll do is work out how we're going to determine the type of the object that gets passed through. Because what I kind of want to do is abstract all this away so that you don't have to do any of this. And I want to kind of get to the point where the API is essentially like protected function to attributes. And then we're going to pass in the request. It's going to return an array. So I'll do that. Oop. Ignore me. Cool. And then we'll also have like a protected function to, we might have a toRelationship so that you can hook in, but I actually want to work out if we can automate the relationships as well, based on include. So this thing, I want this thing to support sparse field sets. Morning, Nuno. And also going to have it try and support sparse field sets, which is when like a front-end developer can say, hey, I want to get the user, but only give me the user's name. It'll like exclude fields, so you can specifically say, just give me certain things. And then we also wanted to have automatically include relationships as well. So if a user's got lots of blog posts, you can append a query, which is like a JSON API way of doing things that is include, and you can say include posts, and it'll actually include those relationships. There'll be relationship identifiers in here, and then there'll also be an includes key in the root, which will be an array of objects. So the reason that we have to do this to attributes and not just like, ideally this would probably just be like attributes. That was kind of my first, I can't spell at all, sorry, attributes. But the problem is that this, we do actually have on our conditionally loads, attributes is already a method. So we have to like pick another name. But the more I look at it, the more I actually like to attributes, because it kind of matches the like to response. It's like, what are you doing to this like thing, this resource that you've got? You're sending it to a response. And this is how you map it to attributes, and this is how you map it to relationships, and this is how you map it to an array. So I actually kind of come around to the whole like prefixing like to it. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just focus on these attributes and how this is going to work. So, so this is what our API is going to look like. So we should probably switch gears and start writing some tests and start to actually build some stuff out. I did say we were going to do this first, didn't I? So let's do that. We'll work it. We're going to like automate this process. So I think what we'll do is to get the ID automatically, what we'll do is just go protected. We'll introduce a method that the developer can override in their class. And that way you can kind of, if it isn't an eloquent model that has like an ID attribute, you can override it to whatever you want. So we might do ResourceId, and this always has to be a string. So even if you're not using UUIDs and you're using integers, it actually has to go to a string anyway. So and that's per JSON API spec. It has to be a string. That's just one of the things. You can see there that one is as a string there. So I'm going to type in that just to like enforce that. And then I'm going to return this resource ID just as the default. And I guess I could just do this ID actually because of how it defers to the resource itself. And that way, yeah, in your base class, you can override how we do that. So resource ID. I'll just get a little bit of stuff here, and then I will actually switch gears into a test, hey? All right, cool. So yeah, let's test drive this. Here we go. Text. Of the model. So we're going to assume that it's a model, because this is the other thing I know in our projects, like we're using resources for like sparsing enums, we're using resources for popos and all sorts of stuff. So I don't want to just assume that it's always going to be an eloquent model that's being used in the resource. So what we're going to do is we'll go our resource is equal to new class, and we'll just do an anonymous class, and we'll go public ID is equal to expected ID. Whoop, can't spell. Cool, so we've got our resource there. Test route. And then what will we do here? Here we want to return, we want to do a new class that extends, I think I need to do those on an anonymous class. JsonResource, JSON API resource, yes. And what is that going to do? That is going to get our resource here. So we're going to send that in. So this will be the resource that's in that. This will be the resource that's in this resource. That's not confusing at all. I'm going to call this, well, it is the resource. Kills me. That's what it's called on the class. So I'm just going to call it that. And that should return that. A couple of little comments in there, just make it nicer. So let's see what this gives us. So we'll go response. I'm going to do this as like route tests all the time, just so it passes through all the infrastructure of Laravel. I dig that. So response, I'll just assert okay. And it is not happy at all. Why are you not happy? And I can see this exception now, which is lovely. Thank you, Jess. What have I done wrong? Oh, can I not spell? Resourceception. Oh, love it. Exactly. Test route. What is this? Okay. Maybe that's not on yet. Just show me the exception. JsonResource not found. Oh my gosh. Why? Because I don't have a namespace. Oh, because I haven't set up Composer. That's why everything's broken. Yay. Okay. Yes, I haven't set up auto loading. Oh, I found it. And I can never remember. I'm just going to go here and I don't know, we'll go here and steal the thing from here. I was wondering why it wasn't being able to like create classes and stuff. What editor is this? This is Vim. And I'm sorry for how much I suck at using it and how much I suck at spelling. Okay, that should be better now. Except we don't want it to be log. What do we want it to be? JSON API. I don't know. We'll deal with that later. I don't care about that right now. I'll work out that nice stuff later. So now I probably need to do a composer dump. There we go. Awesome. Okay. So now I probably need that here. Do I have? Are you gonna? No, because I haven't got my. I need to do the same thing for develop, don't I? Composer. Okay. Is anyone doing anything exciting this weekend? I'm just chilling out. We're in lockdown here, so probably perfect time for streaming, really. Okay, so now I should be able to import that namespace. Awesome. Okay. Now my editor should actually work. Hopefully. I'll just kick it up again. Okay, JSON. Yeah, so import class. Yay! There we go. Okay, we're good. Okay, response. Assert exact JSON. And we are going to say that, okay, so coming back to our JSON API stuff over here. So we should have a data key, and all we're really doing right now is just getting that ID. So we'll just, we'll have a data key, it's a single resource, and then the ID should be the expected ID. Cool. Invalid JSON. Okay, expected ID. And why is that? What did you get? Will you tell me what you got? Or just that it was invalid? Response dump. Oh, it's why aren't you returning anything? What have I done now? So it was, wait, it was working here? Yeah, okay, so it's getting the response it's happy with, but it's not saying that there's actually JSON in here because I didn't get JSON. Okay. Here we go. Nope, that is also not the reason. Reason is I just don't know what I'm doing. This ResourceId. Hello, are you doing it? I'm just going to straight up DD in here because that's how you debug. No, can't even get the first test going. This stream is going great. All right, so new class. It's a function here, and it's going to just return this. It's a new class that extends JSON API resource. Oh, it's because I bloody commented this out. because I overadded to response, which is where Laravel hooks in. So it's just getting null. Love it. Love it. Okay. There we go. The test pass. We're good. We have a passing test. Very happy. Okay. So tests. So that's good. So now we've got that. So now we want to also automate the type, the resource type, so that you don't have to kind of do that yourself. So I'm thinking there's a couple of ways that I want to approach this. Something we did at work was have, like morph map, where if you've got polymorphic relationships in the database, you will, instead of storing the classes in the database, you'll use morph map. And it's like, relation morph map, and then you'll have your array here. And I can't remember which way it goes, but it's something like, user, and then you point it to, you say user, and that way it knows if there's a polymorphic relationship, user points to the user class. So we did a similar thing at work, and shout out to Jess for brainstorming this with me and coming up with this. So the idea of the morph map. So it's kind of like a resource types type map, and you know what, I probably want that just resource types and then just map, and then here you can say users, and that points to the user class. So there's that option. So I want this package to, once we kind of get this going, it's going to support the idea of like doing this in your service provider to actually map those things. But also want, I think, another thing is actually having a contract that you can implement to be able to specify it on the actual object itself. And that way you've got a couple of ways to do it. You can map it all into one place, which personally I quite like, but you can also have, your models kind of implement a contract and then have a method on them as well. So I think we do that. So let's do up a JSON API resource.php. That's the same name as that, so that doesn't work. So we're going to go contracts. We'll come in here and we'll go JSON API. What will we call it? You know what? Again, I'm not going to worry too much about has resource type. I don't like that naming at all. Has resource type. Resource typeable? Yeah, maybe resource typeable. I think that kind of sticks to the convention a little bit more. Resource typeable. I think that's okay. I mean, this is an interface. So this is kind of, something you can implement. And this is going to have a public function resource type, and it's going to return a string. It's kind of weird that you can get the resource type off whatever it is, and not the ID, like not specify the ID on the contract as well. But we might have like a resource IDable or something, and that way you don't have to specify it on the actual resource as well. Yeah, that might work. Yeah. Because like most of the time, like I don't know. I know for me personally, like 99% of the time it is an eloquent model. So like I just don't want to have to implement this everywhere. And it's good that it just has that default. So I think that's good. Yeah. Let's do that. We'll see how it feels. So resource identifiable. Maybe. Maybe. We'll just leave it as that for now. I just kind of want to dig in to get some functionality happening, so I don't want to like focus too much right now on all of that stuff because I can adjust those names. Okay, so we want to public function test. It can retrieve ID from resource identifiable instances. Cool. So I'm just going to yank him here, head down. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this to make sure that we do actually using ZSH as an editor. So we're going to go, so this thing is going to implements, what was it? Resource identifiable. I don't know, that feels super weird, but we'll just do it anyway. Public function resource ID. It's going to return a string. And return, this is going to return the expected ID, and then we're going to change this to this should be missing ID, which is just something I usually like use missing and expected, just alternate between those two when there's something I want to make sure that you don't have to do. So we've got missing, we've got expected. So the point of this test is, yeah, making sure that if you implement this contract, that I don't actually just go and pluck the ID off like we did up here. We want to make sure that you can implement this contract to like override it on your actual object. So don't have to change this assertion. So we'll come back to our JSON resource, and we're going to go if this resource. So I have to actually access the resource itself, because this is of course the like your JSON resource. So I actually have to like pull out to the resource. I think I might, just for consistency, start doing that everywhere. Hey, welcome to the stream. Also, I've never streamed before. I don't know, like, tell me if it's too loud, or if you can't hear me, or if I'm going too fast, or if I need to zoom in. Like, feel free to hit me up and tell me if what I need to change. So yeah, for consistency now, because I have to access this here as this resource, I think I'm probably going to start doing it everywhere rather than using the implicit like mix-in stuff. So if resource is instance of, what was it? Resource, I can't keep on track apparently, identifiable, then we want to return this resource, resource ID. And otherwise, we'll fall back to just our default of this resource. And the nice thing is that if this isn't your default, like, you know, if you want to get key, which maybe I should do, I don't know, this resource. I always go back and forth on like whether I want to like access the ID via like the attribute echo or via the GetKey. All fine except the editor. Bit of an echo. Oh, I don't know if I've got anything in this room to be able to kind of deaden the sound. Sorry. But I'll definitely work on that for next time, trying to put some sheets up or something. Maybe get some blankets in here to get rid of that echo. Sorry, hopefully it's not too painful. Okay, I'm going to do GetKey because then it's kind of symmetrical with, you know, getting the resource ID here. Okay, cool. So, hey, awesome. I'm glad it's sounding good. Okay, so what do we got? Not much is happening here. All we're trying to do for anyone who's kind of come along is we're just trying to automate the process of JSON API has this structure. So it's got the data tag, just like Laravel's kind of resource does. But then we've got this like type and ID here. And we're just trying to automate this, get it out of the developer's way so that you never have to actually write those. They're just kind of there. And we've got a couple of conventions for that so far. So we've got the ID is the resource ID. And what we're doing there is we're checking if it's kind of implements this contract so you can override it on a per instance basis, or we will get the key here. So we'll just go with this for the time being. But like I said, I want to introduce kind of like a morph map for these types as well, so that you can have it all registered in one place rather than having it on like different classes and stuff all the way around. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Everything is broken, contains one abstract method. and what did I not? Resource identifiable. Did I not? Is it not resource ID? It's just called ID. That really shouldn't be called ID. Resource ID. Okay, cool. It's not happy because I'm now calling GetKey and I'm just using my little anonymous class here. So I guess you could change the ID of your, like the ID column. So maybe I should actually just do this as like public function ID, and I'll just return this. So, and it's not ID, it's GetKey. Get key. Okay, cool. Return expected ID. Hey, it works, yay. And do you work? Yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. So that's our two tests. Not super exciting yet, but that way we know that you can, oh, actually no, because this isn't the same now, is it? So actually I should probably do that. And then that should be missing ID. Okay, cool. Now they're symmetrical, so that's cool. Awesome, cool. So now when you're kind of writing your resource, you don't have to worry about this ID at all, which is nice. It's just going to automatically happen for you. So the next thing is the type, and we're going to go this resource type, and we're going to, I guess, do a similar thing, right? So we'll come over here. Let's write our test first. So public function test it can there's not going to be a default fallback for this to begin with. I think this has to be explicit because, like, otherwise, I guess if this is a, I don't know how much magic do we want in here? Like resource type. Okay, so you know what? I'm not speaking sentences, so I'm just going to write some code. Protected function resource type. Just to kind of just look at what this would look like what's going to happen in here. Hey, Dustin. So this is going to return a string. So if this is the user class, right? Like if this is like app user, you don't have it in a user model because you're in a user directory because you're allergic to it, like Mr. Dorinda. Then I could like trim this off and get rid of this or something and make it that the type is user or something along those lines. I don't know. I worry about that because then, like, if you're refactoring and moving classes around, then it's gonna like implicitly change this. So I feel like being specific about this is probably good, which makes me think like I want there to be a way for the developer who's kind of consuming this to be explicit and say, hey, like this is the type for the user class. Like don't guess it. We could introduce something around guessing later, I guess. But I think for now, I'm going to make it that you have to tell us the resource type so that it's kind of static and any changes are kind of known. So all that to say, we've got this interface already, which kind of matches our resource identifiable, resource typeable. Maybe there should be one, I don't know. Oh, too many decisions right now. We'll get it in the hands of some people and see what it feels like actually first. So, resource type is essentially this has to be a resource identifiable thing that we're kind of passing through. So what are we going to do? We might check if this resource instance of resource typeable, yes, that's the one. So if it isn't an instance of resource typeable, right now, I'm just going to throw a runtime exception. I guess there's probably a type exception. You know what? I'm just going to throw exception. Exception. And just for everyone's sanity, I don't make decisions like this when I'm actually writing like code for production. I'm just kind of winging this for this stream so we can get some stuff out. So throw new exception. Resource should implement the resource typeable interface. And that way, there's a bit of a developer experience there. So we're kind of telling can't retrieve resource type. Resource should implement. Yeah, I think that's good. It kind of tells you how to fix the problem. So otherwise, we know it's an instance of resource typeable, so we can just return this resource. What was it again? ResourceId. Yeah, that'll do. Cool. So, I wrote, and see, I don't know what I'm doing. Someone help. Tester can retrieve what? Retrieve type from, retrieve type from, what was our other one? What did we call it? Resource identifiable instances. Type from resource typeable instances. Oh, my hands are freezing and I'm not typing properly. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're probably just going to copy this over. All our other tests are probably going to pass now because our other stuff isn't actually implementing the stuff. So actually maybe what we'll do is, so this has to implement that now, which is kind of just annoying. You know what? I'm going to create a little... Okay, I'm going to do the thing that I said that I didn't want to do, just because, I don't know, I just want it to work easier for now. So we'll introduce a little bit of magic here. I'm going to make the type actually just like the slug of the object. Will that work with you? Okay, Laravel, this isn't Tinker. So if I come over to play and I go new class, can I just call like class on that and will it say standard object? Like, no? What? New class. Do I have to have it in an instance? Oh, because I don't have that. Okay, I class. No, it's just going to explode. I'm making this hard for myself, aren't I? Yep, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to implements resource typeable public function resource type. And we'll go expected type. Okay, so expected type. I'm going to use camel case here. Something that I really wish JSON API would do is tell me what casing type is supposed to be. Plural, expected types. I don't know if it's supposed to be camel case, like slug, or like with kebab case, or what, because there's no like two words, it's all single words. So I really wish it would do that. Oh, does get class work on an anonymous class? I thought get class was the same thing as Yeah, it does that crazy thing as well. Because I think the class one is just a, well, I think this is probably just an alias now to the magic class thingy. I don't know. Okay, expected types. That'll do. We'll make sure this works. And it doesn't. Why is that? Do you not? Did I not tell you to do that? Resource typeable. What have I done? What have I done? Oh, because I didn't say if it doesn't. Yep. And that's why tests are good. So test last. Yep, cool. So that's working now. So now test it can receive. So this is going to have to do the same thing again. Okay, so all the objects right now are going to have to implement this resource identifiable thing, which is fine. That's fine. We can handle that. So public function resource type, and that's a string, and then it's going to return expected types. Yeah, if someone can work out what the can someone just tell me that what the hell to do with these type thing if it's supposed to be slug? Because I just don't want to have to think about it. I want someone to tell me what that's supposed to be, so it's not a decision I have to make. That would be lovely. Expected types, as in if they've specified it, but you can also just tell me what to do, and I'll just do it. Because again, I don't want to make that decision. It's not a decision I care for. Oh my gosh, what have I done? What? Resource identifiable. Oh, geez. Okay, something has gone horribly wrong. What have I done? Resource typeable. Yeah, there we go. Resource typeable. Oh, I did identifiable twice. That's amazing. Typeable. Yep, cool. That's good. And that's not identifiable because it needs to be typeable. Resource typeable. Ooh, that's nice. Static class, class base name, plural, snake. Oh, so snake casing it. Interesting. I dig it. I dig it. Cool. Well, yeah. If I do introduce some magic for that, maybe that's what I'll go with. That looks pretty good. Okay. So public function resource type and return expected types. Cool. And this will be type is equal to expected types. So yeah, so the idea, I guess, is that if we come up to this, I know if this was an eloquent model, like this already exists, and this would be something we do have to do currently, but like I said, we'll do like a morph map kind of thing for that. But then you can see we haven't had to do anything on our JSON API resource. So like the public API, you don't have to do anything, and it's just going to automatically do this. Hate camel case. Interesting. So our front end team, we actually output like snake case to our front end team. And I mean, not that it's super controversial, but they're like, nah, snake case is banned. So I love developer opinions. They're the best. Okay, so I guess I'll also may as well write a test for this, even though I don't think it's going to stay there. It'd be good to just have it tested so that we don't break it doing something else. So test it must implement resource typeable. Cool. So I'll just make that, and we'll paste in here and typeable. You shouldn't use GetKey. Instead, use ResourceId, as the public-facing ID can be different from internal database ID. Yeah, that's so absolutely. So GetKey is just kind of like the fallback. So I think if I'm following along with what you're saying, so the idea for if I come to the actual class implementation, so when we get the resource ID in the actual JSON resource, we call this resource ID, and that's this method here. And this allows you to basically implement this resource identifiable contract, and you can implement your own method to do it to anything, right? So it might be like public ID or something like that, and you can resource you can kind of send that to anything. But is there a resource ID on Eloquent? Is that what you're saying? Resource ID. No, I don't think so. Public function get key model. Yeah, so I'm just using get key off the model by default, and then you can implement your own one. I hope that's what you're meaning. If it's not, please let me know. Okay, cool. So where were we? I was making sure that this breaks. Okay, sweet, awesome. So resource identifiable, get key. Because I was actually using I was accessing ID, but I was thinking, someone may for whatever reason change that, and then that's probably less relevant than get key. So at least get key is a little bit closer for a good default. Get key, resource ID, and resource type. We're not implementing that, so that doesn't matter. So okay, I'm not 100% sure on that one, but I'm gonna push on and see where we get to. Okay, so the resource ID. Yep, don't need that. Oh yeah, so I should probably actually clean that up from the ones that we don't need it. Retrieve type from that, so we don't need both of these here. We can just fall back to this. So I'm just gonna kind of typeable. It can retrieve type from typeable, so that should still pass. It doesn't because this is, this is the expected ID now, because that was only needed for one. This is what happens when you copy and paste tests. Tester can retrieve ID from resource identifiable instances, so that's good. And then that's good there, cool. So tester can retrieve type from typeable instances is good. And then tests, it must implement resource typeable. So resource identifiable, resource ID. I don't even actually need that for this, do I? Because it can just go to get key as the default. Then this is not going to be happy at all. So this, I mean, it's going to be okay is I mean, it's, you know what, I don't want exception handling here, so because I want the exception to actually bubble up. I'm just going to do that because I don't really care about how you're handling it. So this without exception handling. And I've broken everything. Cool. And here we want to go. No worries. Thanks for coming along. Expect exception, and it's just I think I just went like a base class exception. I know, not cool, but it's what I'm going to do for now. Cool, and this expect exception message, and didn't write the test first, so I'm going to just come over here and be like, yo, Can't retrieve resource type. Resource should implement the resource typeable interface. So it's not happy because I said this somewhere, because I didn't use a semicolon. Cool. Okay, we're good. Okay, so that was a lot of stuff for a little payoff, but we got there. So we now have this kind of generated for us automatically, which is nice. So let me add to our, do I have a, no, I don't have a readme. Readme, can't spell, dot md, yes. Okay, to do. Something we want to do is add a resource type map. The contracts, so you don't actually have to implement, well, the idea will be that you won't actually have to implement either of those contracts. They're just there so that you can override the things if you want to on your actual instances themselves. So ideally, I think so I mean, there's probably a place for one that's actually both of those as well. But yeah, I think for now, I'm just going to leave that there because you could, like, essentially you might use a morph map and then you can like specify how we get the ID. The other thing is you can actually like introduce your own base class that just, you don't have to implement the interface at all. In your class, you can do, you know, resource ID and just specify how you get your ID off things. So you actually have the ability to kind of like override that as well, which is something I really want to do, is make sure that like all of these opinions, you can kind of override anything, however you want to do it. So, all right, I'm gonna, so add a resource types map, and what that's gonna look like is something like resource types, and you'll like bind it to the container. So you'd say like new resource types, and then this is gonna be something like this, and you'll say users, and then you'll point it to the user class, and you might say posts, and you'll point it to the post class. And then what will happen is actually within our resource type, we can actually reach out to that and grab that here. If you don't implement this contract, we'll actually just reach out and grab that there, which I think will be nice. So I'll just add that to our README so that we can kind of capture that and that I don't forget, because I probably will. Cool. Okay, so that's that stuff. So we've got our type and we've got our ID that kind of automatically comes through. So now the next thing I want to do is attributes, and I might just like, we might just dig into attributes and make it like the sparse field sets. So attributes are things like, you know, if it's a user, it might be their name, their email address, and things like that. And sparse field sets allows you to say from the front end, hey, only give me, you know, the username, and it'll exclude the email address. So how are we going to do that? Let's come over to our tests, and we will public function test it can include test it has attributes. Oh, that's lol. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, again, I'm going to, don't judge me, copy that, and we'll go implements resource identifiable. Nope, not identifiable. Typeable. Cool. So this is the resource type, and don't. Okay, return expected types. I'll probably start to extract some of this out to like a little class that we can reuse in the tests and stuff, but for now this is cool. Okay, so this is our public-facing API. So I actually want to go protected function, because like, I guess like the resource APIs, they have like a public API from like the outside, which is that toResponse method. And then it's kind of got like an internal developer-facing API. and that is the to array. Like that's how we kind of hook into it. So this is kind of that developer API. Like how does the developer kind of get into this? So it's going to go to attributes, like we talked about. It's going to get the request, and it's going to return an array. And for this, I mean, I know that that's going to be on there, so I don't really actually care about like getting it off the resource itself. So as long as I can pass something in there, it doesn't really matter. So I can just return whatever here. And I can just say name is equal to Tim, email is equal to Tim at example, littlepinky.com. Okay, and then down here, yep. We can get our response. Okay, so then we'll assert that this is okay. Assert okay. Gummy Bear, I'm going to have to talk to you afterwards after we're streaming about your thoughts on that. I might hit you up and message you and see what improvements we can make. Assert JSON, exact JSON. That's the words. Okay, so what should this do? This should have the data, and then this should have the ID already in it. We shouldn't have to like specify that ourselves. So that would be the expected ID. This will be the type, and this will be the expected types, like that, and then attributes. So coming over here, you can see attributes is at that same level. Attributes are nested, whereas like usually, I mean, I say usually, I know for me personally, usually I'd have like the ID and the name and email address all at the same level. But in this case, you actually kind of put those in their own little box because these are meaningful. If you had, these are like a composite key and they're an identifier. And so if you had, I mean, you can imagine that, you know, everyone's had a class like that's got a type on it, right? Like maybe it's an article or maybe it's a link and that's like a type and it's just a string identifier. So type or something to identify that it's the JSON API type. You instead nest it in here because this is kind of a reserved area for JSON API specific stuff. Sick, keen to talk. And then what we're going to do is go name is Tim. Okay, and I mean these should just come through, right? So that should just come through like that, and everyone should be happy. So that of course will fail, and that's probably because I've like half written out something in here. 2 attributes. So no, actually, why did you fail? What's up? What's up? GetKey. Love it. Nope. Public function GetKey. Return expected ID. Cool. Yep, cool. So it's failing now because it doesn't have the attributes in there. So let's go and make that happen. So 2 attributes, we're going to like default it to just be an empty array, and then we've got to kind of merge this in. So again, not much magic happening here, but we're going to add more and more magic to this as we go. I'm going to pass the request through so that you can access that in any of these methods as you need it, because at the end of the day, the plan is that you won't actually write to array anymore, as you can see, because we're dealing with that. So you kind of don't need to hook into this. You can just hook into this like 2 attributes and do all your stuff there. And so that is that. That's getting the request. It's returning an array. Test the last thing, and that's working. So that test is now passing. So cool. Nothing exciting here. But now we are going to get a little bit more exciting and start to do some sparse field set stuff. So we want to essentially copy this whole thing really, and we want to then exclude our public we'll exclude the email address and just request the name. Public function test it excludes, because sparse field sets. Okay, so if it comes to sparse field sets, I mean, it depends how you kind of want to implement this, but the value of the field parameter must be a comma-separated list that refers to the names of the fields to be returned. An empty value indicates that no fields should be returned. So we need to think of that. If a client requests a restricted set of fields for a given resource, an endpoint must not include additional fields in resource objects of the type in its response. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're going to start to do, but I'm going to hide all that behind the scenes. And that way the developer just specifies them and they don't have to do those when checks themselves. It all just actually happens underneath the hood, which is really nice. So test, it excludes attributes when using sparse field sets. Cool. So what we're going to do here is so we've got our object, we're still returning this from our two attributes, but what we're going to do under the hood is actually make it that you camel case. Where did I not use camel case? Oh, for the test names? Yeah, I don't know. It's just how I roll. So used to snake case. We do that at work, snake case, so it's just kind of embedded in my head. Totally forgot what I was doing. Okay, so we're specifying our route here. So then what I want to do is I want to go and what is it again? So it's like include, so it's fields is equal to, and it is fields article. So you get whatever it is. So this would be the, what would it be? Whatever the type is, the expected types. And then you specify that you just want the name. And that should exclude the email address because it hasn't been included. So that means that should be our test, our result. And of course it fails because it is actually getting the email address and the name. So now we can kind of write that code to make that work. So we'll come over here, and what we're going to do is we're going to introduce another protected function pass attributes, and it is going to get the request. It's just requests all the way down on this one, and this is going to get attributes is equal to this attributes, and we'll go request. Now, the very first iteration of this isn't going to handle nesting, but we are going to make sure that this can kind of handle like recursive stuff. It'll kind of go all the way down the tree and apply these rules to everything. So two attributes, we're actually going to change this to pass attributes. And here we're going to return attributes. So we'll just, can't spell, can't type, attributes. Cool. So what do we want to do? We need to get off the request. We need to know the fields that you want. So requested fields is equal to the request query parameter, and it's fields. Is it fields dot? Fields dot. And then it's this type. So I think this is, I don't know. Let's find out. This resource type. Okay, I'm just going to like DD this to see if I'm even on the right track with this. Null, yay. Do I like, is it literally like that? That's null as well. Cool. This resource type. Excellent. And what's our fallback going to be? Our fallback is going to be null if it's not in there, because an empty array is meaningful. So if you've, because there's, yeah, so you can say you want some things, you can say you want nothing, and or you can specify nothing. What will it be? Oh, my brain has stopped working on how this all works now. So if you haven't specified anything, I do filter my tests. Yeah, absolutely. So what I've got set up is Vim test. So I can visit the test that I'm currently running. So this is the test that I'm currently running. So I'll run it with test closest. And so it just runs the one test. And then obviously it's going to DD here everywhere. But now I can, wherever I am, so I can go like back to where I was. And if I do test last, it'll just test the last test that I ran. So it's only testing that one thing. So it kind of keeps that filter going. You know what? None of this matters. I'm writing code for stuff I don't have tests for. So let's just not even worry about that. And we'll let the test guide what we're doing. Hey, let's do that instead. Cool. So we're requesting the name. So right now, I'm going to make it that it's not even going to actually, I'm just going to make this test pass and then we'll keep writing them. Hey. So now all I want to do is just go return doesn't know about dot notation. Man, I really wish, I would love if dot notation was just everywhere. It's very handy for that nested stuff. It's very handy. Array array only is what we want, and we'll pass through our thingamajiggies, and we're going to, so this is just a string, so we actually do need this to be, yeah, okay. Requested fields, I do need to do like an explode on this. So we'll do that. So it's on a separator and it is requested fields. Yeah, and then, so that is requested fields. And that should, I think, make that test pass. Now I broke it. What did I break? Did I not import array? Yeah, I didn't import array. Classic maneuver. Cool, still broken. And attributes. Okay, so what are you not happy about? Yeah. I go back and forth on that as well. I think when it's in the query, I like to actually specify the query itself. I don't know why. I don't know that it matters. I just do. Conditionally loads attributes. Okay, what am I doing in this test? So I new up a resource. I then pass that resource in, call two attributes, and that returns this, and that should be good. So where in my code am I breaking things? On line 35. Oh, I know why, because I'm calling attributes. I know. Yeah, I'm not calling two attributes. I know what's going on. Cool, that's passing. Lovely. So that test is passing. So we can now exclude things, but I'm actually probably gonna, I might make this like a little bit more comprehensive and have it location is Melbourne. Oh my gosh, cold fingers. I want to have my heater on here, but it's a little blow heater and it's going to make lots of noise on the microphone. So I want to make sure that this can actually go location as well. So I should exclude email and have both of those in there, the location as well. So yep, we'll do that. Oh, and look, it just works. Lovely, cool. So there we go. Sparse field sets are working. Did I break anything else? Yeah, I broke stuff. Awesome. Oh, I broke everything else. That's lovely. And that is probably because when we don't specify anything, when we don't specify anything in here, like when we don't pass fields through, it's not going to return an array to then access this. So I'm going to, for now, what we're going to do is, for now, I'm just going to make this a string, but we also need to write a test to make sure that you can specify no fields. And everything is breaking. Why are you breaking? Oh, because I'm doing only. Oh yeah, okay. Yep. Where am I going? I don't know what I'm doing now. JsonResource. Here we go. JSON. Oh my gosh. Sorry, everybody, that you have to watch me stumble around on my keyboard. Here we go. So we actually only want to do. So I'm just going to go if requested fields is equal to this, then we're going to return our attributes, this to attributes, and we'll pass through the request. We'll do some refactoring to kind of make this work, but we'll see how that goes. And it's still not happy, even though I'm doing that. So why are you failing? Let's see what you're not happy about. You are getting that, so if it is that, we're going to return. Maybe I should look at the actual errors. Maybe that would help. And that is because we've got the attributes. Yeah, we haven't actually specified the attributes. So this is interesting. I'm not sure whether or not, if the attributes are empty, if you should exclude the attributes key. I'm not sure what the go is with that. And I'm actually going to make it for now until I do know that the attributes is actually just always there, and it can just be an empty attributes. Could just be an empty object. Yeah, we'll do that. If someone can point me to somewhere in the spec that says that actually you should exclude it if it's empty. Oh, cool. Everything is passing. Lovely. All right, cool. So that's kind of fixed that. I'm not loving this method at all, but we've still got some more work to do on it. So we'll add some more tests around it, and then we can do a refactor at the end to kind of make it pretty full. Awesome, sweet. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there then. If that spec doesn't really care, then I don't really care either. Public function test, it can exclude all attributes. Oh, that's not L. All attributes. Attributes. Cool. Okay, so we've got our key, we've got our type, we're going to go in here. We're specifying a bunch of attributes, and then what we should find is expected types is equal to, and I'm going to pass nothing through, which should mean that it shouldn't include anything. So this should just be empty. And we'll see, yep, it's breaking. So we'll come back here. And we're going to come here, and that is because it is actually going to get an empty string in that case, which is fine. So what we're going to do now is go, we're going to make this null, and then here we're going to change this and make this null, and see if that, what are you doing? Why are you, what have I, no, yep. Still only got the one failing. Test include all attributes, so it's actually still getting all the attributes. So that means that that must still be null. So then what we're going to do instead is we're going to, again, just to really hack this, we're going to requested fields, and then we'll default to an array. Wait, we won't default to an array. We'll default to an empty string. No, because that will be an array. Yeah. I know how to do stuff. Okay, so then if array key exists, key exists, and we've got the key, which is going to be this resource type, and then we need to actually pass through the thing. That would help. Requested fields. You know how like Laravel has like the request boolean, and you can like say like, you know, is whatever, and under the hood it actually like checks to see if you said like on or yes or something like that and one. I'd love if you could actually like hard code, because like all the ways that you can get stuff off the request is always like it's going to be a string, or it's going to be an array, or it's going to be whatever. I really wish you could do something like not this API, but it'd be nice to be able to be like array, and if it isn't an array, then it like throws an exception or something. Not that I'd use that here, but it'd still just be nice if that was the case. Okay, because we actually need to see if it even has fields. So yeah, like I said, this is getting a little bit messy, but what we'll do now is we can go if requested fields. If it doesn't have the if it's not in there, then we'll just return this to attributes with the request. So that should cover. So that covers if you haven't specified it at all, then you get everything. So then if you have specified it, which means we're down here, excuse me, then we need to get it. So then we'll go fields is equal to requested fields. And then we can get that off there. We know that it's in there at that point. We know that that key exists, so we don't need to do a fallback. So we've got our fields. That should be a string. Oh, a lot of this is assuming that you're kind of using like Sparsy's JSON API, kind of filtering this stuff as well. But we can probably put some protections and stuff in for weird types. Like if someone sends, I don't know, an array to fields, fields and your resource type, that might be weird rather than a string, but I don't know, that's kind of on them. Fields. Yeah, I mean, potentially we could do that and make these. I think what we'll actually do is make it that you can specify closures here if there's expensive things that you want to be able to do. So if this is like an expensive lookup or something like that, you'll be able to do that. And that way what we'll do is we'll actually call that down here. And that way you don't have to like manually do anything here. You just, if you call a function there, we'll only like execute that function if it's been included and is actually going to be returned to the user. That's my thinking around where we're kind of headed there for those expensive lookups. Okay, so we've got fields. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm a little bit off topic here. So I'm gonna, not off topic. My head is just all over the place. So we're gonna explode this. So fields, requested fields. So we don't need to worry about that now. So this is just fields. Fields, can't spell fields. cool. Might even do the old explode. Is that too many things on a line? And it kind of feels like it. I'm actually just going to leave it like that. Requested fields, so fields. Okay, so I've broken everything, which is great. Expected types. Don't mind me just continually breaking stuff. Undefined array key expected types. Because love it. Cool, everything's passing. Yay, did it. Finally. So I think that's all right. So we can get the requested fields. If you don't specify anything, yeah, that's good. I think that's cool. The only thing is, yeah, if you pass something weird through to fields, like a value that we're not expecting, like an integer, then, or like, yeah, just a string, then this might explode. So I wonder if I put a check in there. I mean, this is going to die if you pass something that is an array through. So I think it's fine. Cool. So that's good. So now that's kind of happening automatically, which is nice. So we've got that sparse field set stuff, which is really cool. So now we why don't we jump into that like expensive lookup stuff and do some closures there. So what this is about is like, yeah, maybe it's like you've got in your attributes. Let's do it from the test. Hey, so I'll just come here. Public function test. It can resolve closure wrapped attributes. And so we've got like Tim, but you can imagine that there might be something like you probably wouldn't actually do this, but number of posts or something. And to get that, imagine this is like an eloquent model. You might be like this, resource, posts, count. And there's no point in doing that database query if this is being excluded via sparse field sets. Oh my gosh, I cannot say sparse. So it'd be nice to not have to do that database query. So thinking that we do something like this, where you can actually just specify a short closure to be able to kind of get that value, and it'll only execute that closure if that attribute is being included. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Tim there, and then we're going to go function, and we'll only include my location if we're including it. Yep, good words. So location and name. So we'll include both of those and see what that comes through like. Actually, we'll get it that we'll see what it's like when you don't include anything. Yeah, I don't think it matters. We'll just get that. And what we are expecting is a name of Tim and a location of Melbourne. Cool. So that should execute if it's being included. We'll also do a test to make sure that it doesn't execute. Okay, so that fails. Just want to make sure that everything else is passing. Yep, so that test is failing, so that's cool. So we'll come over to our resource, and what we're going to do is we're going to get, so we're probably going to change this to a collection now. So, so we'll collect this collect this, and then we'll do only the fields, which is just kind of mapping what we did with the array object, like the static on the array helper, to a collection class. So everything should, because can't, and then we'll go all here to get the array again. Everything should still pass now, except for that one test. Yes, it does. Cool. So we haven't just kind of done a nice refactor there. And now what we'll do is we're going to map over all of these. And so we're going to map over any of these. We'll see what it looks like with a short closure. What is it that we're getting? Don't know. It's a bit of everything. So we'll just go field, no, attribute, value, because we've got the key as well. We'll call it value. And value is instance of closure. I could do is callable, but I figure you're probably going to be passing a closure. We'll stick with that for now, I think. Then it's value and we call it. Otherwise, it's just the value. I think that is good. So that means that, yep, if it is an instance of the closure, we will return, we will call it. And if it isn't, we will, oh yeah, the value helper. Yes, yes, yes. Love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is legendary. And location is an empty array. How did I break this? Anyway, that is sick that it'll do that, because that instance of closure, yeah, wait, value, and then args. Oh, that's what you pass through. Yeah, okay, because that's interesting as well, is that just for like a little bit of niceness, just so that you don't have to, in your public API, if you've got this kind of function, I mean, for a short arrow function, it's fine because you automatically get access to the request here, so I could do something based on the request. But if you've got a bigger function, oh, sheesh, what am I doing? And you've got something like, you know, whatever, and you go function, and you do these ones, you know, you have to then use the request. And so kind of thinking just as like a little nicety, just again, like I said, it's just requests all the way down. Like you can just pass the request in here just so that you've got access to it if you want it. So that might be something that we do when we call this thing. So that would mean, I believe, that I can, if I'm understanding that correctly, the value, I mean, I've seen this, but I haven't actually seen this args thing. So that, I think that's right. So it's going to collect them all up, and then it's just going to expand them all out and pass it through. So I'm pretty sure that should work, which is kind of sick. And it is resolving something, but I don't know why you're resolving an empty array. So can I DD this? So yeah, okay, and oh yeah, of course. Okay, so oh, because of this. That's why. Because I got to do the same thing up here as I do down here to kind of resolve that stuff. Of course. Yes. Excellent. Okay. Which means I'm probably going to flip this logic around and see how that feels, so that we can kind of use this same mapping everywhere. So what I'm going to do is go attributes is equal to this two attributes, and then we'll pass through the request. Okay, and then here, what we'll actually do is go, and I love having some tests on my back so I can break stuff. So this is actually going to do the collect only. Yep. So what? Okay. So yeah, we'll just collect this straight off the bat. Cool. And then this will be. Why did I have requested fields and then fields? I hate that. I just kind of want to. Because that's not the. That's the fields, and that's the standby. Sorry, naming is hard. Fields, sparse field sets. That's the type. Okay, there we go. Types, type fields, cool, whatever. That'll do. So here, that's where we'll kind of filter this thing. So we'll go attributes, only. And we'll just get some stuff in here. SRP. Yeah, don't worry, I will. I will definitely be mixing this up a little bit. Just want to get some code out and then we will refactor. Yay, works. And everything still works, great. All right. All right, so you're feeling splitting out the filtering. We can definitely do that. Pass attributes. Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's detected function requested attributes. I don't really love the naming of that, but again, I'm just gonna get this happening. Pass that request on down. Got to do it. Requested attributes, and then this is going to return a collection, and this actually doesn't need to collect this at this point, so I'm actually not going to. I'm going to still return just an array, so which can actually mean that I can bring this back to this, which is nice, to attributes, and pass the request on down, and then we can bring this out, and this can return array, array, yeah, only. Oh yeah, it's still working because I haven't actually told it to use this. Requested attributes, because yeah, what's the pattern for that? Requested attributes. Yeah, maybe that's all right. So this is going to, I mean, this doesn't have to collect it either, but array map, and we'll just because it's just the one call, I'm kind of just happy to just request not use a collection. I think that's fine. I think that we're going to split this though, because it's a bit much. Yeah, probably does the job. Do the mapping into attributes. I don't want to do anything into attributes. I want to leave that so the developer that's kind of the developer's space. It's like the to array. So I don't think I want to like pass anything into here, because you can, again, you can like ditch all of this stuff. Like if you don't want it to do any of this filtering, you can override like how it passes or how it filters or anything to match your own conventions. If you don't want it to like automatically filter, we can even have a thing on here that's like should protected, should filter fields. But I think the automatic filtering is kind of nice. So now we can requested attributes. So you can basically tell the object like what has actually been requested, and then this does the parsing, which is really just like mapping out to the actual value. So I don't know. I'm definitely open to all these ideas. So I might hitch us up after to get a better idea of where it can kind of head as well. So that's cool. What was the next test we had to do? We had to test that it doesn't actually call that. So let's do we test it doesn't resolve attributes that have not been requested. Okay. How long have we been going for? Is this like way too long for a stream? I don't even know. 7:30, 8:30, 9. So yeah, okay. I mean, I'm keen to just keep kicking along. Hopefully you're still enjoying it. Test it doesn't resolve attributes that have not been requested. Yeah, okay. So this is kind of making sure that if we don't request the thing, that it doesn't come through. So location. So how we're going to do that? We're going to do this. Was resolved, and we're going to say false. I feel like I'll probably add this up there as well. I guess I could just throw an exception in there, but I think I'll do this anyway. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Had exactly the same thought. Yeah, it's just, I guess I still am making an assertion, so I guess that's still fine. I usually like to have like something real explicit, some value to have come from the thing, but you're totally right. Let's just throw some exceptions here. You failed. Oh, better throw a new one. Excellent. It failed, so it did resolve it, which is good. Is that good? Well, we'll see. So now what I want to do is make it that fields, and this is expected types, and we're only going to ask for the name. And the name did come through, but we're asserting that the location is coming through as well. And that's passing. Cool. So that is now working, which is really nice. So that is automatically going to resolve those. So we've got a way to kind of do those more expensive lookups without paying the cost when we don't need to, which is nice. Anything else exciting we want to do into attributes? I don't think so. I think that's all I wanted to do for now into attributes, which is cool. That was awesome. I am going to take a 2-minute break and go get a glass of water because I have been talking nonstop and my throat is parched. So I shall be right back. Let me just be right back. Just grabbing some water. All right, be right back. Excellent. Cool. All right. Looks like things are still working, which is good. Hopefully you can still hear me. Yeah, okay. So I think for now that's kind of attributes done. So now let's just see if there's any refactoring we want to do right now. That is totally redundant, not used. Need to get some static analysis set up so it can tell me when I'm not using stuff. I think that's good. Happy with that. Happy with that. Yeah. Okay. I think that's good. So, oh, awesome. Bunch of tests there. I should probably start doing some commits and stuff, but that's cool. We're just winging it. So, what is the next thing? So we've got data errors, meta object. Okay, so just going to allow you to kind of insert some top level stuff as well. Like I said, we're just kind of at the top level going to allow you to do some of these things. So I'm just going to add an API to do meta links JSON API, so you can kind of include those. It's not super exciting, but it just kind of gets those out of the way. Oh, should we just do included? Maybe we start included. It's more fun. Those other things are a bit boring. Let's start working on included. Yeah, let's do it. JSON. Okay. So same thing here. Protected function includable. Going to get the request, and this is going to return an array. Okay, so the idea here is that you are going to, should this, sorry, brain's not working. Maybe actually what I will do is do a to relationships as well. So our like bare bones implementation that we did had a way to do relationships. So basically like include relationships in the relationships key that weren't actually requested. Like you could just hard code and be like, these are the relationships that you should show, and they didn't appear. Yeah, just like this, right? So author, you can have this here, but it's not actually showing the because that's no, that is nested. Sorry, people. The included, it's not in the included key, but I think that the spec, I don't know if it does, but I think the idea is that if it's in relationships in the key, it should be an included. So I think they're kind of tied together a little bit. So maybe we just kind of go, I'm going to go on that assumption and do a two relationships. And the idea here will be that this will, again, when we haven't handled nesting, there's going to have to be lots of nesting stuff, and we'll have to flatten out any nested includes and stuff like that. But what I'm going to do is have two relationships, and the relationships that you specify are automatically, hopefully, automatically going to appear in the included tag as their full response that you've requested. And we'll insert an object resource identifier into the actual relationships key. Don't know how well that's all going to work, but we will work that out. So the idea here being that you would just, so I think the API for something like this is going to look like, it'll be like posts, and then this will always be in a closure, and then you'll kind of return here what you want to return. So you'll do like, post resource make this posts, and it'll only execute that if you've actually asked for the relationship from the front end, so it doesn't kind of include them by default. But we could have it that you can actually be like, no, I always want the comments, and that's like a comment resource make this comments. Like you could, so we can, I think we'll do that. We'll have both, so that you can actually, just because, I'm not your dad, you can do what you want. So I'll make it that you can actually like specify in here and just be like, even if it hasn't been included, always include it. But I think the default, like the approach that we should probably always take is this, that you only add it if it's been included. And the nice thing about all this is that we can even add more in here. So what I want to still be able to do is into array, like we've probably done stuff like posts this when loaded, which actually, yeah. So you could be like posts, okay, and that's only going to load that when post, like send that through when post has been loaded. Not that I think. No, I think that's kind of a bad pattern personally anyway, like calling when loaded, because like you might have like loaded up the post. This is totally off topic. You might have like loaded up the posts because you're like dispatching some job to send an email, and the front end user never requested posts, and all of a sudden for some reason on this endpoint, posts is in the response, but when it, on another endpoint, when it gets the same resource or whatever, it's like not included. So I always find when loaded is kind of a bit weird. I think it's like, I feel like it's there to kind of avoid N+1s, but I don't know, I think we've got better stuff like the stuff out of the box in Laravel to like detect N+1s. And yeah, I'm going to stop talking because now I'm just ranting. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that you'd be able to do stuff like return this when, and you might say, I only want to return if a lot of the time, like, I don't know, but you might be like, I don't know, when now is Friday, because this is the best API in the world, then that's when you want to do this. Obviously, that's much worse than anything I just talked about, but that's also hilarious. So what are you going to do? Yeah, so it's really nice that, this is still on the JSON resource, so you can still actually like do these kind of conditionals and stuff. On our project, like our resources don't really accept null. They expect the resource to actually be there. So in our to array, whenever like, if this resource is equal to null, then return nothing. Like I know that's what the base JSON resource does, right? And otherwise it calls like this, return this resource to array. We don't really do that. We just expect that it's there if you're kind of making it. So for us, I know that we'd do something like if, probably not post because that's a collection, but let's say it's what profile. The user has one profile, and then we might say if profile is not equal to null, then return this. So it's like a double, like it's what is this? This is a profile resource. Oh, I can't spell, but I'm not even going to care. And then this is profile. And so that way, yeah, it's kind of a double like multi-layered, right? So it's only going to return the profile if it has been included by the outside, which what that means is like whatever the endpoint is, and then you do include, I think it is, and then it's like profile. That's like the API that they specify in JSON API. There's the words. So this will only run and be included if the outside world has included it. And then what's more, we only actually go and pull this proper resource if we have a profile to actually make. So you don't have to do that. It's just an example of how you can still use all the existing infrastructure that we've got set up, which is really nice. So when, I don't know, maybe you want to use some of this other stuff, when appended, when loaded, stuff like that. So that's what we're going for. Hopefully that made sense. Okay, so we don't want this to return that by default. So that's what the user will do. Cool. So let's start to test drive this out. Yeah, let's go over to our tests and public function test. It can include relationships. Two attributes, so I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to do two relationships and go away, go away, go away. Two relationships, and we're going to turn an array here. And what is our relationship going to be? Okay, so what I'm going to do for right now, I'm just going to actually hard code in an object, but we're going to introduce some stuff to help with resource identifiers, which is like a JSON API concept. So let's do this. So we're just going to go name is equal to Tim. And this is our, what relationship is this? This is, we'll call this our profile. I don't know. We'll just call it that. That'll do. Doesn't matter. So include is equal to profile. Need to make sure that that is the correct include. Yep. There we go. And you can do this nesting as well, which is, yeah, all stuff we'll look at eventually. So this should just be empty. Shouldn't be anything in there. And then what we do expect is the relationships to appear. Relationships, and this is going to have, I'm pretty sure, relationships. Yep, it's the key, and then essentially our little data tag, which yeah, we'll get to doing all that stuff. Profile, and this has just got two values on it, which isn't sticking to. Is it named Tim? Is that what I did? Yes, it is. Isn't sticking to JSON API spec, but that's fine because it's just for this test. Great. So, yep, not working as we would hope. So we'll come over here. This will, of course, break all our other tests because we're adding a new key in here. And yeah, we're going to go this pass relationships because we're going to have to do some stuff there as well. So we'll use a similar API here. Function pass relationships, and we've got the request coming in. I mean, a lot of, yeah, we're pretty much we're gonna need to filter them. So protected function. See, I'm over engineering already. I just got to get this to work. So this is just going to return this to relationships, and send the request through. And it got nothing. This to relationships. Okay. Did I not spell it right? To relationships. Oh, ignore me. Yeah, that should work. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, because it's in a, okay, yeah. Just gonna test that you can actually hard code. Yep, there we go. It's working, lovely. Okay, so that would be test you can force include relationships. As a developer, you can override the includes and just be like, always return this. There we go. That's what that test does. And now, of course, we've broken all our other tests. So attributes is that, and relationships is, yep. Okay. Lovely, that is working, so that's cool. So now what we need to do is make sure that you can lazily evaluate. So it needs to be able to execute the closure and actually get what is inside the closure. So let's do that. Test that can force include relationship, which should be the same as, oh, did I not paste that? Nope, did not. Oh, okay, it's decided that that is the thing in my, nope, did not ask for that. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Force, don't mind me not being able to Vim. Force include relationships, test it, can test it. Lazily include relationships. Lazily evaluate included relationships. I think I like that. Cool, so what we're going to do now is have it, so tester can lazily evaluate included relationships. So, oh, stop that, shush phone. So this is where we do this. And we need to be able to get that out. So include profile will actually work up here. Include profile. What have I done? Did I delete a test? I totally deleted the test, didn't I? How did I do that? What is happening? Oh my gosh. Whatever. This is why we use Git, I guess. Which I really need to start getting to commits. Don't mind me. Okay, so tester can lazily evaluate. So test it can force include relationships. which means that we don't want to do that. We just want to do that. And then we don't want to have an include key at all. We just want to be able to include whatever the hell we want. And that will pass. Lovely. Tester can lazily evaluate included resources, which means that we're going to include the profile. We're going to have it like that. And that this should come through here. And it blows up, which is good. So let's go make that pass now. So pass relationships, so we get that. So now what we want to do is array, just the same thing as we did before. So array map, and then we're going to value, and Adrian's suggestion is value, and then we will, cool. And it passes. Sweet. So all our tests are passing, so that's cool. So now we need to, I guess, test that they are lazily evaluated includes are excluded when they're not included. Wow, that's fun. So let's do that. So test it doesn't test it. Excludes relationships not requested by the not requested, doesn't matter who it's by, that are not requested. Lovely. So what we're going to request is, so include, well, we're not going to request anything is what's going to happen. And this just shouldn't be included. Yeah, that's right. Because this is the API to like say, I don't care if it's being requested or not, just always output this. And putting it in a function is basically saying, if it gets included, do this. Because I guess you don't want any of this stuff to run. So it's kind of similar to the attributes thing, but I guess in a little bit of a different reason, kind of. So, okay, so now what we want is that should not. So we want that to just be that, and it won't be. So it expected that relationships was this, but it got all the things. So if we come back here, this is where we're going to have to do our filtering. So we know that we want to keep that separate. So we'll go filter relationships. I also wonder about like how many methods we should put on the class, because we're like cluttering the API, but yeah, it's fine, whatever. So return this to relationships, pass through the request, gotta keep passing that request down, and then this doesn't call this calls filter relationships, and that means all our tests should pass except for that latest one, which it does. So let's keep on keeping on. So now what we'll do is filter relationships. So we've got to do this kind of stuff again. So I'm actually going to copy this. No, I don't want to just copy it all though. So I might just copy it bit by bit. Just because I don't want to introduce code that we haven't actually needed for a test. So filter relationships. So the first thing we want to do is get the fields, but no, this should be the include. Include? Yes, include. Okay, so we'll do the same thing here. And this shouldn't be the resource type. This should be filter. Yeah, so this isn't. If this resource type isn't in the includes, no. So this one is a little bit different. So now we've got the field types. Now what we need to do is get all the fields that you are requesting. And yeah, because because it's not an array. It's not an array. Yeah. I know what's happening. So this is the includes, and then this is includes, and fields is includes. Cool. So we do that. So that means if you've provided something, we'll include it. If you haven't, it'll be an empty array. And then we explode it. And then this will be filter, and this will be array only. This to relationships, and then we're going to go includes. Okay. I thought this would work. Oh, it is working, but I broke another test. Lovely. Okay. Force include. So force include relationships. Okay, lovely. So we don't want to do array only. We want to filter. We want to filter. So we'll do array filter. Is it? It's array filter, isn't it? Yes, it is, if you can type correctly. And the array is our thing here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a function here. We'll do a big old function, and this is going to be the array function. Does array filter by default provide the key, or is that something that Laravel does for us? I don't remember. Let's find out. Okay, so what is this going to be? This is going to be changing here. This is going to be the value, and I want to know if the key comes through. So we'll see. Okay, what we're going to do here is, so what we're trying to do is make it that if it is a callable, like if it's an instance of a closure, then we want to only return it if it's been included. But if it isn't a closure, that's when you're kind of forcing that relationship and kind of saying, I just want this to always be there. Which I don't know, the more I think about it, the more I'm not sure how much I feel about that, because you can't really do that with attributes. Like the attributes just are, but I guess they don't, because I don't know if JSON API has a, that's right, I'm not saying words again, but the JSON API does say that if you've requested certain field sets, then they should be there. So, and everything else should be excluded, but I don't know if they say that about relationships. So I'm going to add this in, and then I'm going to go and actually have another look at the spec and see what they say. Now, my plan is to actually put the spec into like a big to-do list and actually start to make our way through all the things that you must do and make sure that we're covering all of that. But for now, we're going to do this. So what are we going to do? So we need to be able to use the includes, and then we're going to say return. Okay, so I'm just going to write some terrible code and then we'll refactor it. So if the value is an instance of closure, instance of closure, then we need to do something. So yeah, so this is if it's not, then we just return the value. So if you just pass an array to it, excuse me, or whatever it is, we'll just automatically include it. Okay, but otherwise, what we need to do here is only include it if it's actually been included in includes, yes, which means we go in array, and the needle is the key, and we need to check in includes. And is this going to explode because too few arguments? Yep. Okay, that must be a Laravel thing. So is there not? Oh, wait, no, there's a with keys thing or something, isn't there? Let's have a look. Excuse me. Array filter, use both. That's what I want. So array filter, and then we come down here and do that, I guess. There we go. Lovely. That's all working. Cool. So that's all working. So now we'll do some refactoring here. Yeah, we'll turn this into return. So if it's, I'll get rid of this in inverted condition so that it's a bit easier to read, I think anyway. So we'll do that. Else, we'll just return the value. Cool, and it still works. So I think that's quite good. So that is working now. So that's the relationship stuff. So that's getting like populating the relationships attribute for the JSON API stuff. But there's a whole lot more that we actually have to do with the relationships. So we need to have a like an object identifier, which is this type and ID. So we need to have a concept of that in our system. So I'm going to provide that. And then we also have to make sure that the relationships are actually being populated down further as well in the includes key. So so that's something that we're going to have to do. So if it is, I'm kind of thinking that you want all your resources, if you want this to kind of all work seamlessly, you want all your resources to extend from this class. And I think that's where we can kind of make a bit more magic happen. Just wondering how much I hate that idea, because that makes it a hard refactor as well. If you've got to go through and do all your resources at once to extend this class, that might be a bit of a pain. Fine for new projects, but a bit of a pain if you wanted to migrate to something like this. But I like the idea of just being able to specify this and then all the magic happening. So I might push on with that assumption and just see what pain points we run into. This has been awesome fun. I hope you're enjoying just chilling with me. What is it, 9:44? Okay, cool. Might go for a little bit longer and then finish up, but we've got relationships here. Okay, so I think now we need to start introducing the idea of the relationship identifier. How do we want to do that? So relationship identifier should have a type. Sorry, my brain is just working here. And maybe that's an indicator that maybe I've kind of gone deep on this, and it might be even good to just take a break and step away. You know what? I'm going to do that. I might actually finish up. Thanks heaps for coming along. That was awesome fun. It was good chatting with everyone. Might reach out to some of you as well about some comments and see what you're thinking. Still lots to do on this, so I'll pick this up another time. like I said, like we shouldn't actually just be dumping out whatever is in the relationship here. The things that are supposed to be in the relationship are just these like type and ID values. So need to fix that up. But yeah, we'll get there. Sick. Well, this is awesome. I hope you all had fun. Thanks very much, and I'll catch you online. See y'all.